You know, throughout my travels across the internet and in the real world, and coming across people who aren't necessarily social justice warriors, some of them are, you always hear like cultural appropriation and stealing, etc. always crop up when we talk about stuff like that, specifically in regards to music. By this, I'm talking mainly about blues, R&B, rhythm and blues, not R&B of today. That's completely different. All sorts, you name it, any genre from pre-Beatles you can name as being somewhat appropriated or stolen, usually by white people, specifically Elvis Presley. Now, I'm not a big Elvis fan. I like songs, but did he steal the black man's music? Did he appropriate culture from another race or culture to make loads of money? The short answer is no, he didn't. And I'll explain it to you why. Now, Elvis was born in a place called Tupelo, Mississippi, which in his childhood, after surviving a tornado, he ended up living in the predominantly African American community there. And as well as liking country music, like Hank Williams, he also loved African American music, like, for example, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, not Sharp, what am I saying? So, and he listened to the radio, and he went to and when he was an older man, well, older lad, I'd say 16, 18, they moved to Memphis, and he was going down the legendary Beale Street, going to the blues clubs, even though, because it was segregated, he could only go to places where the whites were allowed on certain days. And he listened to the radio, he listened to African American music, which at the time was called race records, and, living amongst them, hanging out with them, like B.B. King, he knew him before both were famous. So the fact he was living with them, talking to them, listening to their music, playing with them, within the limits at that time, can you say that he was stealing the music that he grew up listening to and contributed to? And bear in mind, he was listening to his own white music, and then he gets big, and now all of a sudden people think that he stole the black man's music and made loads of money off it. Well, firstly, back in those days, not many people wrote their own music. There were a few, Buddy Holly wrote his own stuff, Chet Atkins wrote his own stuff, Little Richard mostly wrote his own stuff. But by and large, most big names didn't write their own music. Presley wrote very few of his own songs. Jerry Lee Lewis wrote more, but again, he rarely wrote anything. It was mostly songs written by other people, professional songwriters, and he was given the songs, but ultimately he could choose to record whatever song he liked, and he could arrange them in whatever fashion. Now, I'm sure one of the songs that people always bring up is Hound Dog. That's one of his big ones. That was originally recorded by Willie Mae Big Mama Thornton. She was a black woman, a black singer, but the song itself was written by two white guys, Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. And a lot of Elvis's songs are written by white guys who probably like the same music as him and wrote music like that. Some of them were from black men too, like, for example, like Otis Blackwell, who wrote or co-wrote loads of hits. For example, I think he co-wrote Great Balls of Fire for Jerry Lee Lewis. So as you can see, this is a time, despite being in the South, and this was with Stax Records, and for a lesser extent, this is up north, so it's kind of different. Motown, a lot of white songwriters and black songwriters were collaborating and creating what is now known as rock and roll, of course. I mean, mainly this is also records. I'm not trying to confuse everything together. And this is what rock and roll was. It was a combination of country and blues and R&B. White performers and black performers combining what they listened to create a whole new genre that is still around today, in a different form. So the idea that he stole their music, or these songwriters stole the black man's music, is insane. I mean, let's not forget that Chuck Berry stole his most famous lick from Louis Jordan. who was another black man. So, are we going to say that Chuck Berry stole from his own people in order to become a success? Music is often stolen, or, this is mostly in some kind of quotations, Music is stolen, it's lifted, it's changed. That's what music always has been. Blues was no different. Lots of blues licks change, loads of riffs change, but they always have one source. But then there's more modern examples. There's Eminem was labelled it. Recently, that Aussie girl, I forgot her name, she's been accused of that too. But if you think about it, hip-hop itself technically steals music. I mean, when Puff Daddy, or P. Diddy as he's now called, did that song Missing You, he sampled the Police's song Every Breath You Take. He didn't get permission, but because he was friends with Sting let it slide. Is he stealing the white man's music? Because the Police are a white band, but they sing black music. You see what I mean? They started off as a reggae/punk band and then became a pop sensation. So as you can see, the idea of cultural appropriation and stealing music as somehow negatively affecting people is kind of bullshit, because even though Presley became almost massive, he became bigger than Little Richard, Chuck Berry, etc. They were all still massively successful in their own right. And plus, Little Richard he stepped out of rock and roll for religious reasons twice, and now he's still doing it. So I just find it odd. I mean, music itself is stolen by everyone, for everyone. There are black people who do country, there are white people who do blues. There is even country blues as a genre, which is kind of like, it's either blues from the country or blues influenced by country music. So I find it odd when someone says that people have stolen music. How dare you steal our culture? Bullshit. Without white people and black people doing each other's music and combining the music, we won't have rock and roll. We wouldn't have had such all that great music. We still wouldn't be having great music. Popular music would not be the same had people not stolen from each other. Do you see what I'm saying? It just annoys me. And now that all these social justice warriors are going around saying, yeah, we have to be equal but separate. We can't be, twerking if you're white. You can't do the waltz if you're black. They don't say that. They would say that though if they had the chance. I just find it odd that in the 50s, where it was highly conformist and incredibly segregated in the South, the fact that this music came up from that place and changed the world for the better, although ultimately it was the politics that did, but that music helped spread the message far and wide. Don't forget, without all that happening in the south of America, the British invasion would never have happened, and perhaps some of those artists that I mentioned, like Little Richard, some of the older blues guys like Muddy Waters, etc., would not have been as big as they were and have the revival that they had if the British bands hadn't gone over to America, like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Animals, the Kinks, playing American music back at them and saying, yeah, we like these bands and these guys, check them out. Regardless of what those guys thought at the time, they made a hell of a lot of money off those fans, those white boys, But, I'm a mixed race guy. What does my opinion count for? So I guess that's all I wanted to say. I think this has been a bit rambling, but hopefully that's my opinion on the matter, and I hope some of you agree, or if you disagree, I don't mind. So this has been Charming Man 93. Like and share the video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you later.